Let's do it.
First day today, eh? First day training. Oh, where's my stick now? Right, sweet, that's good. Then, lovely. Alright, Sam, you alright?
Yeah.
How's it going, Sam?
Hey, done, mate.
I'll see you later on.
See you later.
You getting ready for any fights?
Yeah, mate. Cool.
So that's it, lovely, man.
See you later. Lead the way out.
Yeah. You've not been here before, have you?
No. First time for everything.
Alright. First time for everything, that's right. Right, first day today. Alright. So, I know you've travelled down. What I always do with anybody that's training with me is get you weighed up and see what you are. So we're going to jump you on the scales.
Nice.
We can get you as you are. Now just take your shirt off and have a little look. Alright. Slip your shoes off. Not so much worried about your jeans. It just gives me a rough idea. Alright, what's occurring?
Smooth.
You shot some weight, haven't you?
Done a bit, yeah.
Come on, man. It just gives me a rough idea. So you're just 80-ish kilos, 81 kilos, alright, okay. It just gives an idea. How much weight you lost now?
About 6 stone in total.
6 stone?
Yeah, since last March.
So you was, what you told me?
18 and a half, yeah.
18 and a half, so. And since I've seen you last, I think you dropped down a little bit
I'm
more.
starting to cut a little bit more now.
Alright, let's get ready, man. Time goes really quick, man.
Time's flying by already.
Yeah, this is it.
Even the training we're doing at home,
Yeah.
it's just flying by.
So what I want to see with you is that you hold around about, I don't want you no lighter
Yep.
than 83 kilos.
Right.
Right?
Stay at that.
I know you've been on a real wash lane, and where you're going to stop is up to you, but if we're looking at about 83, that'd be better, right? So, because it's your first day with me, right? It's like, for instance, not your fault. I want you to go and I want you to buy bigger wraps,
Sure.
right? And just a little tip, right? Because this is what it's all about. Roll the wraps the other way round, right? So we roll them there, so that when you come into the gym, you can go straight on it. Yeah, and these are too short, but they'll do for today because.
I've got gels if we need to wear them.
Yeah, that's all right today. But and as we progress through the journey, because that's what it is, it's going to be a journey for you. I will start to wrap and tape your hands up, like a professional fighter, man. Because really, what you're doing is you're having I know it's a white collar fight, but from coming from nowhere, it's like a professional fight.
Sure,
man.
you have to treat it the same, right?
But, and we'll get to know each other along the way. I mean, we've had meetings up till now, but we'll take it from there. That's why I want them slightly longer.
Sure.
But getting back to what we was talking about before, we was having a chat when I met you down that other gym.
Yeah.
About your dad.
Yes, mate.
The must have been a buzz having a dad that was a pro footballer, mate. I mean, me being a boxing man, never knowing I don't like football.
Yeah.
I don't not like football, but my sons, I've got 4 sons. They know all the people, all the things. What was the teams? I know he played for Chelsea. What was his background?
Yeah, so he started off at Chelsea when he was like 14. I think he left school early.
Right. What area did he come from, man?
He came from over Hillingdon, mate.
Oh, okay.
So he was brought up around that area, near the airport. Went and played for Chelsea. I think he captained them at the age of 17. Pretty impressive. I think he's still their youngest ever captain. I think he's one of their youngest ever captains still. Which is pretty impressive. And then he moved up to Old Trafford at Man United.
So he was at Man United? So that weren't the days of Georgie Best and all that?
No, just after.
Really? So he knew all them people?
Yeah. So I played with Brian Robson, the likes of them, and Frank Stapleton. And then we moved out. I was born in Manchester.
You was born up there?
Yeah. And then we got flown out literally on my 3rd birthday to Milan, where we played for AC Milan for 3 years. And then we flew to Paris. He played for PSG for a year until Graham Souness signed him at Glasgow Rangers. So
all these names, even me being a non-football man,
yeah.
I know all the. I know of.
You would do because Souness is a hard nut, right? So
really? Was it Glasgow Rangers?
Yeah, Rangers.
Man,
good.
I was good to think of that one. I must have heard that back in the day. Because me, when I used to be a kid, I used to remember my dad doing the football balls. Yeah. And all these names: Chelsea,
keep swinging over.
1, West Ham, 0. That type of thing.
Yeah.
And even to try and sometimes get in with the kids who used to talk about football, I used to kind of buy the stickers and the football. But I wasn't ever
just understand it a little
just
bit.
to understand it a little bit like that. So when you was, or when he was with Chelsea, where was you living as a family, man?
So we obviously did the rounds as a player, and then he went into coaching. So he ended up coaching at Chelsea.
So how long was he a pro football, actually?
So he played pro football till he was 40.
till he was
His
40.
final game was when he was 40.
But in them days, were they the footballers classed as like superstars? What like?
Yeah, I mean, it's only recently, because obviously what happened last year when he passed away, that I started having a look at some of the detail from like years gone by.
Right.
And I didn't realise, but he sponsored things like TVs and stuff like that.
What
for
your
companies
dad
like,
was sponsored by?
Yeah.
Who was he sponsored by?
He did loads of things with Honda, there was Grundig and all these kind of old TV companies and stuff like that.
Would he wear that on his?
Yeah, they've been posters and stuff like that.
Have
So
you-
it was those elements you don't really see as a kid because you're just seeing him as a dad. But
Yeah.
actually, when you start looking back now, you can start seeing these quite cool things.
Do you know what? The bit of information I've had, your dad was a kind of a pin-up, or maybe what we'd call now a poster boy. Did you realise that? Did you know that?
Yeah, no, I didn't realise that. Again, until recently, I started seeing a few posters that he'd been on and stuff. There's one on a bike. He was on an old chopper bike on a pitch, something, and they were advertising something or other. But obviously, those things are great to look at now.
Really, man. Because I saw some pictures of your dad, and in them days, like the 70s, he had that real trendy type of look to him and stuff like that.
He actually had long hair.
Long hair, that's the one that I see. His hair was down, it was in that 70s type of cut. In this, I should think he was like maybe the face of that type of, like George Best.
Yeah,
like Beckham is now, and it's like so far into a different world now, I should imagine. And although I would think that the footballers earned plenty of money then, I mean, go back to the days of Bobby Moore. I mean, you know, Bobby Moore had the house in Chidwell and, you know, stuff like that. So although...
I think back then they owned comparatively quite well, but not really where the game's gone now. It's gone a little bit mental now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I couldn't get my head around it. I mean, I listened to Jimmy Greaves once, and some of the old footballers who said, and maybe Jeff Hurst, and although they was earning money compared with today's earnings, I mean, it's absolutely, forget life-changing money, it's like whatever.
I suppose it's equivalent to boxing as well, right?
Yeah.
So you look at fighters 10, 15 years ago, they earn a good chunk of money for their fights, but you look at it now and it's astronomical funds, isn't it?
Do you know what, Ross? I understand, but correct me if I'm wrong, that he was Chelsea's youngest captain and he may still hold that record, is that right?
Yeah, I think he still does. I don't know if anyone's coming ahead of him on that front, but I know when he played, when he was 17, he got the captaincy then and he kept it until he left, I believe. So yeah, he was Chelsea's early.
He must have had some skill level, and if, I reckon now if he was transported to the future, and tell me if I'm wrong, he'd be like one of the top.
A bit of a different level, I would think.
That's right. When you was at Paris and Milan and travelling all over the globe, did it really affect you as a young man? Obviously we spoke before and you couldn't really put roots down with friendship with anybody.
You kind of just go with the flow a little bit, then you just move from place to place to place. You don't think too much about it. I think when I sat down and analysed it later on in adult life, I think actually the moving around is quite a difficult thing. There are some negatives to it, it's not all positive. Yes, you have a glamorous life, you go to nice restaurants, you see nice people, you're mixing with celebrity all the time. But at the same time, there's negative elements to it as well. Like,
tell me about the negative.
Not having, like things when you're a kid, not having friends that you keep for any longer than 2 years. So you go to a school, you make good mates, the next minute you're ripped out of that and put into another school in another country, another language to learn. And it's difficult, and it's only when I got back to the UK when I was about 10, 11, that I really realised that actually I'm back in the UK now and I don't have anyone I know apart from my immediate family. So as a family we got strong, and I think anyone that's in the same situation would be strong as well. They bond together as a family quite well. But I think your friendship groups are much harder to infiltrate and make at that age.
I can understand what you're talking about, the friendship. I look at maybe 5 or 6 guys that I grew up with who are still friends of mine 40 years later. Have you got anybody that...
Yeah, I've got two really good mates now. But when I came back to the UK, we just clicked straight away.
And that's it.
Yeah, and we've known each other ever since.
Brilliant, man, brilliant. Okay, so your journey, I understand, and we've talked about it before, that you was very overweight.
Yeah.
Why was you that overweight? I mean, we all get overweight. I'm already trying to shoot a few pounds now. But tell me about how you got so heavy, man.
So anyone can use excuses, right? So my excuses were these. I work in sales, and at the time it was a lot of on-the-road sales, so it's national sales, so I was in the car a lot. So finding a regular diet for me, eating out of hotels and service stations is really difficult.
Sounds like a good friend of mine has that problem
and
as
it's
well.
also finding that time for gym work, so you go and do presentations in the day and then in the evening you're doing your work, and by the time you look at it you think, I'm not going to go the gym. I'll just have some food. And that's where it ends up. And over time, 4 or 5 years of that lifestyle, and sooner or later you start piling on the pounds a little bit.
So.
And then we had children.
Yeah.
So I've got a 6-year-old called Freddie and 2 twin boys called Jake and Archie.
Right,
all lovely.
Yeah.
But the twin boys especially were really hard work when they were babies.
Was you nicking their sweets?
You're nicking sweets, you're nicking food,
Yeah,
you're
man.
nicking snacks whenever you can because you're shattered, because you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
It's all those things
All
kind of
them,
correlate together. And,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, I ended up, unfortunately, at around 18 and a half stone.
Do you drink?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Was that a great...
More recently, work was quite heavily involved in taking people, clients out and stuff like entertainment. And now I've kind of cut that one back.
Do you know what, we did some, we spoke to some people yesterday in the conversation was brought up about mental health and mental health issues, and do you know what, I was a little bit taken aback, but when I spoke a little bit deeper, this world now that we live in is so high pressured from very young people that we hear that word a lot more than we did back in the old days, where maybe it had a bit of stigma to it, which it shouldn't have done. And even men will not open up. I'm hearing some terrible things lately about male suicide, and of course it should never happen, but it does. And but you did mention to me that you had your own bit of issues. I mean,
so my chosen charity for the fight is Mind, so I'm going to do it for a mental health charity.
Really?
When I was 18, just out of the blue, I just started not wanting to get out of bed. I wanted the windows and blinds closed. I didn't want to interact with any of my friends socially or anything like that. Couldn't quite put my finger on why. And then started going to see a psychologist, etc., etc. And then things came up as to why, partly what we said earlier about moving around a hell of a lot as a kid, not having friendship groups. There was a few things that went on at school a little bit later on in life. There were some pressures, obviously, of having a dad that's in the limelight.
Go back to the school. Was you bullied at school?
Yeah.
You was?
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, or both?
Mentally more than anything.
And that happened to me at school. I went to this new school because they didn't know me, and they'd all come from other schools together. They bullied. They never physically bullied me, but they mentally tried to bully me. So one day, I did explode and turned on the bully and dealt with the situation and dealt with the bully. And unfortunately, after that, that's how I became very in the fighting and the street fighting. And not a bully, never been a bully. Well, I hope to think I haven't, but I know where you're coming from. Yeah. So go back to being bullied at school. That instills what in you?
That instills a bit of fight in your body.
Okay.
And you learn to deal with situations in certain ways. Now, that wasn't one particular individual with me, it was over a multitude of different things that happened. So I couldn't actually go and do what you did and just have it out with one person and then that's it finished. It was more something I had to then deal with intrinsically and learn how to battle myself. With the help of other people. Obviously, my dad was a big part of that, my mum, sister, and eventually I found my wife Sarah, who really helped me through it at the back end.
So really, when that started at school, did you go to Dad and say, listen, this is what's happening with me at school?
No.
You didn't?
No.
You couldn't? Or
back then you just kept it in and you tried to deal with it as best as possible. They obviously knew something was wrong because of the way you're acting. Sometimes when I was 17 and started driving, I'd just jump in the car, I'd drive around the M25 and try and free my head up a little bit, but started getting into a bit of trouble speeding and stuff like that, and things just start to spiral out of control a little bit, don't they? But eventually, like I said, I found the right help and we managed to get over it and overcome it.
When we talk about fear and stuff like that, and that's not trying to instill fear, now that you've actually agreed, I'm going to have a fight, said that to yourself, said it to me, said it to Will, family, kids, what do you feel now in your quiet time, when you're alone in the car, about, I'm going to have a fight now? Have you ever had a fight before in your life?
No, never before.
Okay.
So like I said, even at school when I was going through problems, never had a scrap with anyone really.
Okay.
Mentally, I've had loads of challenges in terms of fighting. So mentally, I feel quite strong with it.
Good.
Physically, I'm getting there with training.
Okay.
It's more about the technique and then getting in and actually having a proper scrap, isn't it? And getting a hit, which is going to be the difference.
Well, I'm going to help you along the way on this journey, and I know you've got your own trainers. But I'd like you to come with me. And today, what we're going to do, I'm going to start you off at what I call ground zero. And we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thanks,
right, God bless.